Hi, everybody. Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington. Today is Friday, the 17th of April. Casual Friday for me. So I'm in a t-shirt. I'm just enjoying a glass of iced tea, sitting here at the family cabin on the deck. You can see the middle fork of the Payette River coming around the bend, which we can see from our deck. Some 40 years ago, my parents and the next door neighbors were looking for a place to build a cabin north of Boise, above the town of Crouch in what's called Garden Valley. And they stumbled upon this spot. Some of their good friends had a place down on the river just about 300 yards away or so. And this spot was available. It's an elevated spot that goes down. It's 2.5 riverfront lots, beautiful. And they put in a foundation, a 28 by 32 foot foundation, and told me they wanted me to design a cabin. And I said, usually you have the designer start work before you've already dug a hole and put in concrete that can no longer be moved. There was essentially only one design, and it works fine. We have a wall of windows that would be right behind me if I really were on the deck of the cabin. In fact, I'm in my basement, and this is just a picture. But it's a picture that I take every time I go up to the cabin. And I usually go there with my brother and his wife and my wife, usually twice a year for a week. And sometimes my sister and her husband join us. But usually this month, at the end of this month of April or early in May, we'd be going up there for our first trip. And then again in September. Sometimes we'll go in July and we can float the river. Right now, this is probably the September picture. You can see the rock right here. In the springtime, this rock will be well under the water, sometimes a foot under. And by the end of October, there's quite a bit of rock showing. Over here is Lightning Creek, and Lightning Creek comes in to the river and creates a little sandbar. So often we have our own little private beach down here too. It's a wonderful spot. But the other reason I like to come here, right here, these shrubs, just over my shoulder here in front of this tree, immediately off to the deck. When my parents were in their late 80s and finished revising their will for the last time, they said, now, when we die, we want to be cremated. And we want our ashes right there, right off the cabin deck, off the lower deck of the cabin. And we want to be where we love to be, by the river. That's where we want to spend our eternity, at least have our remains there. And they died 17 days apart a few years ago. And so we were able to mix the ashes together and sprinkle them right down there. My brother and sister and I and our families and my beloved cousin Candy, we were all there. The reason I'm talking about it this week, we heard a week ago today that Jesus had been crucified and his body taken off the cross, wrapped quickly because they had to have him buried in the tomb sealed before sundown, before Sabbath began. So while it was still Thursday, they were able to get that done, but they didn't have time to completely prepare the body with spices and ointments. And that was what Mary Magdalene planned on doing at the first opportunity. But as soon as the Sabbath began, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, you can't do that. The Jewish law didn't allow anything like that. Most of the time they would prepare Friday food or Saturday food on daytime Friday, and then you would serve basically cold food, leftovers, and not do cooking because it constituted doing work on the Sabbath. So, and then the Sabbath ended technically at sundown Saturday, but you're not going to go to a cemetery on Saturday night. You're just not. So Sunday morning at sunrise was the first opportunity, which is why we hear the Easter story there. And in the story according to the Gospel of John, Mary is weeping at the tomb, and a person says, "Why are you weeping?" And it says, presuming him to be the gardener, she said, "They have taken my Lord. Do you know where they have laid him?" It was a garden spot, and it really does sound very nice. It's why we try to make burial places also places of beauty, so that they aren't just places of the remains of the dead. They're places of the peaceful existence of the blessed dead, of the peacefulness of the river, the sounds of the forest. I can see why my parents wanted this spot. This is their garden tomb. This is their spot. And I wanted to share this picture with you today and to put it as my background. It's where I would be if I weren't in my basement during this COVID-19 quarantine, this stay-at-home time. It's where I would plan on being in about 2 weeks with my beloved only brother. But we can't. I talk to him frequently. I saw him just a month ago, and I will see him sometime. We hope our daughter's still going to get married in August. We hope that we'll all be together then, and we hope we'll be back at the cabin together. In the meantime, though, he and I text each other every single day and talk every few days. We are just very close, very best of friends, and we have sat together just on this deck looking at this view, talking to mom and dad. They're not there, but they are there. You know what I mean. What's your spot? Where's the place where you're able to go and be at peace? Where's the place where you can continue to chat with the people that you've lost, the people who are at home with Christ, but whose physical remains are somewhere buried or scattered, or where's the place where you plan on putting your earthly remains when you die? Jesus didn't have a tomb of his own. We were told that Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy, probably one of the leaders of the Jews, probably a Pharisee, loaned his tomb. Well, you don't just loan a tomb. He didn't expect that Jesus would be no longer using it after 2 days. He assumed that, okay, that's and tombs often had enough chambers in them so that there would be room for more than one person in there as well. So it was as though Jesus would become part of Joseph's family burial place. This is as close as I have to a family burial place. My mother's family is buried in the little town of Cuna. Well, it was a little town. Now it's part of the growing metropolis called Boise, some 500,000 or 600,000 people. But I've been there many times to see where my grandparents are buried, and the 2 brothers that my mother lost, and other family members. My dad's mother was cremated. So in order to find out where those were buried, I had to take a trip to New York, and we had to go to about 70 miles northwest of New York City to Orange County, and found any number of our relatives who were clear back to the 1700s on my father's side. But for me, this is as good a place as any. This is my garden. This is where we like to be. The smell of the spruce and the fir and the pine, the sounds of all the birds, the hummingbirds. There aren't a lot of fish in the river, so we don't see fish jumping. But there are canoers and people on inner tubes who will float by, and we say hi to them and wave, and they wave to us. And this is our peaceful spot. And this is where I'm spending my day off. This is my garden spot where I can ponder and be at peace and remember those I've lost, but still love and keep in here in my heart. Where's your place? Why don't you find a way to go there? Go find a picture or something. See you tomorrow.